I never imagined I'd find myself in this situation. My name is Mary, and I'm a retired widow living on a modest pension of $600 a month since my husband Brian passed away. Life had already been challenging, but when my eldest son Tom and his wife Julia entered the picture, things took an unexpected turn. It all started when Tom and Julia moved into my house uninvited. They didn't ask for permission or offer any explanation. They simply arrived. My younger son Sam, who lived nearby with his family, had previously offered me a place to stay out of concern after Brian's death. Sam knew Tom well. His older brother had always been unreliable, indecisive, and resistant to taking responsibility. Despite this, I allowed Tom and Julia to stay, hoping things might work out. Tom had always been a source of worry for Brian and me. As our firstborn, we'd spoiled him, assuming he'd grow into a dependable adult. Instead, he grew more irresponsible. Even as an adult, he bounced between low-paying jobs and refused to contribute financially while living under our roof. "I have my own expenses," he'd say dismissively. "I'll have more to give soon. Just wait." But the money never came, and his excuses wore thin. When Tom announced his engagement to Julia, I hoped she might bring some balance to his life. Instead, she only amplified his entitlement. From the moment I met her, I could sense her arrogance. Before even introducing herself, she began touring the house as if she already owned it. "This place is spacious and nice," she commented, her eyes scanning the rooms. "Are you planning to live here with us?" I asked cautiously. Julia frowned, her tone laced with condescension. "No, Tom and I will live here alone. You and Brian should move out." Her audacity left me speechless. This was the home Brian and I had built together, yet she expected us to leave to accommodate her whims. When Brian confronted them, Julia boldly suggested, "It would be a nice wedding gift if you gave us this house. It's too luxurious for you anyway." Brian's anger was palpable. "This is our home," he declared. "If you can't respect that, you need to leave." After their disrespectful visit, Brian refused to approve of the marriage. Still, Tom seemed powerless to stand up to Julia. When I asked him if he seriously intended to marry her, he shrugged. "I didn't know she'd say that," he muttered, his usual indecisiveness on full display. Despite Brian's objections, we couldn't stop two adults from getting married. At the wedding planning meeting, Julia's entitlement reared its head again. She demanded we move out, hoping to claim the house for herself and Tom. But Julia's father, thankfully a voice of reason, shut her down. "You need to find your own place," he said firmly. "It's not right to expect them to leave their home." "Dad, don't interfere," Julia snapped. "I want to live in that house." But her father stood his ground, and the discussion ended with Julia's tantrum unresolved. Tom and Julia ultimately moved out, though not by choice. A month later, I received a call from Tom. His tone was hesitant. "Mom, we made a mistake." The tables had turned, and it was Tom and Julia who now regretted cutting ties. "I apologize for my daughter's behavior," Julia's mother said, looking genuinely regretful. Her words shed light on why Julia had grown so spoiled and entitled. Brian, too, reflected on our own mistakes, realizing that spoiling Tom had left him dependent and weak. Once the housing issue was resolved, we finally celebrated Tom and Julia's wedding. But Brian never warmed up to her. "Don't worry so much. You miss Sam, don't you?" I asked Brian one day. He quickly denied it, but I knew better. I didn't like Julia either, but since we weren't living together, I decided to tolerate her for Tom's sake. Julia rarely visited, even though she and Tom lived nearby. She didn't come for holidays, leaving our home feeling lonely at times. Thankfully, Sam and his family visited often, bringing light and warmth into our lives. Not long after, Sam announced his engagement and introduced us to his fiancée, Emily. She was polite and graceful, instantly winning us over. "We should tell Tom," I suggested to Brian. "He lives nearby, and maybe he can come alone." Brian looked skeptical but agreed. "Just don't invite Julia." I didn't want to invite Julia either, but propriety dictated that she should know. Still, I was wary of her unpredictable behavior. When I told Tom about the meeting, he seemed happy and agreed to come. "Just come by yourself," I added. "Julia can meet Emily another time." "Got it. I won't tell Julia," Tom assured me, and I felt relieved. But my relief was short-lived. On the day of the meeting, Julia showed up at our door uninvited, her expression sour. "Excluding me is mean," she snapped. "I'm coming as Tom's wife." Without waiting for an invitation, she barged in and acted rudely toward Emily. "Why is she here?" I asked Tom in frustration. "She saw it marked on the calendar," he muttered awkwardly. I was exasperated by his carelessness, but hoped Julia would behave. My hopes were soon dashed. This house isn't meant for Sam and his wife after they marry. It's meant for us, Julia declared smugly. Emily, to her credit, stayed calm. Oh, I see, she said evenly. I'll leave that up to you. While I bristled with anger, Emily remained composed, which seemed to embolden Julia. I'll take the house, Julia continued, but you'll handle your parents' care. I'm not doing it. Fed up, I finally snapped. Julia, I didn't invite you here today. If you don't like us, you should just leave. Julia shot me a disdainful look before storming out, with Tom following her like a shadow, offering no apology. I turned to Emily, deeply embarrassed. I'm so sorry for her behavior. Don't worry about it, Emily replied with a kind smile. Her maturity stood in stark contrast to Julia's pettiness. Tom left without congratulating Sam or even acknowledging the occasion. Afterward, I apologized to Sam and Emily again, explaining what living with Tom and Julia had been like. They were both shocked. I knew Julia was difficult, Sam said, but I didn't realize it was this bad. Over time, our bond with Sam and his family deepened, while our relationship with Tom and Julia became increasingly strained. I thought Tom would reach out if he ever faced serious problems, but then Brian suddenly collapsed at home. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Sam came immediately with Emily and their child, their concern evident. He's stable now, but it's serious, I said. Sam urged me to stay positive. He'll be okay, Mom. When Sam asked if I'd informed Tom, I admitted that I had, but Tom hadn't come. Is Julia stopping him? Sam wondered. I doubted it, but when I called Tom again, I heard something outrageous. When Dad dies, do I have to handle the funeral? Tom asked bluntly. I'd rather Sam do it. Furious, I demanded he come to the hospital immediately, but Julia took over the call. If your husband dies, what happens to the house? Will Tom inherit it? She asked, her tone disturbingly cheerful. Don't say such heartless things, I snapped. Come to the hospital now. He's probably not going to make it, right? I need to look good for the funeral, so I'm going to the salon, Julia replied casually. I was livid but still hoped Tom would come. He didn't. Despite multiple calls, he stayed away, leaving me heartbroken. Brian pulled through, but his condition remained fragile. I decided to quit my freelance illustration job to care for him full-time. Sam and Emily offered their support. Let me help, Emily said kindly. Don't overwork yourself. I appreciated her offer but knew she had her own family to care for. Meanwhile, Tom and Julia remained absent, though Julia did call once to ask, how much longer is he planning to live? Wasn't he supposed to be on the brink? Her cruelty stunned me. He's still in critical condition. Show some respect and visit him. I shouted before she hung up. Tom called later, but only to ask about the inheritance. How much does Dad have? The house isn't in his name, right? Are you waiting for your father to die just to claim his money? I asked, my voice shaking with anger. Tom seemed oblivious to the pain he was causing, continuing to press about the estate. Each word from him cut deeper, leaving me wondering how my own son could become so heartless. After I hung up, Tom called Sam next, pestering him about Dad's estate. Tom kept demanding details about the inheritance, Sam told me later. I told him I didn't know, and he got mad and hung up. I knew Tom had always been unreliable, but this level of selfishness was shocking. Sam added, I think he's confused about what Mom inherited from Grandpa. Tom thinks Dad had a big inheritance. Hearing this made me feel even worse. My father had been well off, and when he passed, I inherited a substantial amount. Brian had warned me never to tell Tom how much I'd received, fearing it would lead to greed and entitlement. Somehow, a relative had spread a rumor that Brian, not me, had inherited the fortune. I remembered a conversation from years ago when Tom, still in college, had said, when Dad's inheritance comes, I only want cash. You can keep the house. Brian had scolded him, calling it disrespectful. Sam had overheard but dismissed it as typical youthful ignorance. Now, with Julia in the picture, her influence seemed to have fueled Tom's fixation on the house. Do you think Tom is in financial trouble? I asked Sam one day. Is that why he's so obsessed with the inheritance? I'm not sure, Sam replied, but Julia's spending habits are out of control. She's always shopping and they rely on takeout for meals. It's not cheap. His words made me even more anxious. I considered confronting Tom, but before I could, Brian's condition worsened, and he became critical. In the chaos, I forgot to call Tom, but Sam informed him. To my dismay, Tom and Julia finally appeared at the hospital with nothing but cruelty to offer. Julia's first words were biting. He's not going to make it this time, right? Don't get your hopes up. I glared at her, stunned. Tom muttered something equally inconsiderate. Dad didn't leave a will, did he? If I'm cut out of the inheritance, I'll be furious. That was the final straw. You're not needed here, I said sharply. Go home now. They both looked annoyed but left, laughing as they went. We'll go prepare clothes for the funeral, Julia quipped. My heart burned with anger, but I focused on Brian, hoping against hope he would pull through. Despite my prayers, Brian passed away. The days following his death were a blur. Sam and his wife took over the funeral arrangements, allowing me to stay by Brian's side until the end. When the funeral concluded, I thanked Sam and his wife for everything they'd done. Tom, on the other hand, didn't even attend. When I called him about it, he simply said, "Handle it," and hung up. Later, Sam's wife confided, "The oldest son didn't come to his own father's funeral. I'm so sorry." "Don't worry about him," I said, trying to sound resolute. "I have you and Sam. That's more than enough." I resolved to cut ties with Tom and Julia, but before I could, they showed up at the house unannounced, bags in hand. "We'll be staying here from now on," Julia announced smugly. "Move Dad's things out. Tom inherited this house, so it's not a problem. It's safer for you to live with us, right?" I was speechless. You can't just move in like this. I never agreed to live together. Despite my protests, they moved their belongings in. "Sam has no say in this," Julia declared. "We canceled our old lease and have nowhere else to go." Sam came over, furious, and tried reasoning with Tom, but it was pointless. Julia always twisted every conversation to suit her narrative. Exhausted, I pulled Sam aside. "I'll endure this for a bit while I sort out your dad's belongings. Then, I'll move in with you." "You're always welcome, Mom," Sam reassured me. "Don't hesitate to come anytime." Living with Tom and Julia turned out to be worse than I had imagined. Julia refused to help with housework, and even Tom stopped contributing. They pay for nothing, and when I brought it up, Julia snapped, "Why should we pay rent? You're living off your husband's house. You should cover the expenses." She even insisted on controlling my pension, believing I received much more than I did. Julia's extravagant shopping and daily outings hinted at financial trouble, but when I mentioned that my monthly pension was only $600, she turned red with anger. "Don't say such ridiculous things," she snapped. "Are you accusing me of infidelity?" I had said it jokingly, but her overreaction was telling. Feeling uneasy, I visited Sam to share everything. "It's ridiculous for you to pay their way," Sam said firmly. "Just move in with us." Sam then revealed something shocking. I saw someone who looked like Julia with another man in a car. I thought it was nothing, but maybe it wasn't. We were all stunned. While I was ready to leave the house anytime, we decided to investigate Julia further before taking the next step. While I prepared for my move, Julia continued her daily outings, blissfully unaware of my plans. One day, she approached me with an outlandish demand. "Give me some spending money, Mary," she said casually. "I'm taking care of you, so you should give me an allowance." "I'm already paying for everything," I replied, trying to stay calm. "There's nothing left to give." Julia scoffed, clearly convinced I was hiding money because of my pension. "Don't be stingy. You have enough." I considered revealing the actual amount of my pension but decided against it, knowing they'd only demand more if they knew the truth. Tom, as usual, showed no interest when I mentioned Julia's request. He had lost all focus on inheritance matters since moving in. Sam and I had been working quietly to ensure the estate was divided according to the law. With Sam's help, we prepared the necessary inheritance documents, which only required Tom's signature. As Tom given up on the estate, Sam wondered aloud. "Tom assumes everything is already settled," I said. "He thinks the house is his, so he doesn't care about the rest." When I asked Tom to sign the documents, he nodded indifferently, trusting me to handle everything. I finalized the paperwork while Julia was out, ensuring that all assets were appropriately transferred. Tom signed without reading a word, assuming it simply confirmed his ownership of the house. Watching him sign so carelessly made me worry about his susceptibility to being deceived in the future. After filing the documents, I returned home to an unexpected confrontation. Julia was back early, and her tone was sharp. "Mary, do you only get $600 a month from your pension? I thought you received more." Stunned, I turned to find Tom holding my bankbook. "I wanted to know how much you get," he said matter-of-factly. "So I checked your room. Why is it so empty?" "Decluttering," I replied curtly, snatching the bankbook from his hands. "Even if you're my son, Going through my belongings is unacceptable. Return that to me now. Julia crossed her arms, looking disappointed. If it's only $600, I don't want it. I thought you were wealthier. We've been tricked. Their entitlement was staggering. Fine, Julia declared. We don't need to live with a mother who only gets $600. We'll cut ties. I laughed at their absurdity. Are you sure about that? You might regret it. Julia narrowed her eyes. What's that supposed to mean? You'll see, I said, grabbing my pre-packed bags and leaving for Sam's house. Sam and his wife burst out laughing when I shared what had happened. Tom's always been careless, Sam said, shaking his head. But I didn't think Julia would be fooled so easily. How will they manage now? You paid all the bills. It's not my problem anymore, I replied, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I'm just glad I had Tom sign those papers. A month of peace passed in Sam's home, filled with laughter and warmth. But the calm was broken when Tom and Julia showed up unannounced, their frustration palpable. Why are we getting rent bills? Julia demanded. This house is supposed to be ours, isn't it? Where's the inheritance? The bills are piling up and our phones got cut off. Tom added angrily. Give us Dad's money. I remained calm. The inheritance was deposited into your account. You signed the papers, remember? Why are you here after saying you wanted to cut ties? Sam handed Tom a copy of the signed documents. You agreed to everything. The money was transferred to your account the next day. Tom's face paled as he read the papers. I remember signing and giving my account number. But where's the money? And why isn't the house listed as an inherited asset? I explained patiently. Didn't you realize? The house was rented. You signed the lease paperwork. You should have known. Julia looked stunned. If that's true, how did you pay rent on just $600 a month? I used my savings, I replied. The inheritance from my parents. Tom's eyes widened. You mean, I spent the $500 from the inheritance on credit card purchases. I thought I'd pay it back with more funds. Sam chimed in with a revelation. Julia, we know where the money went. You've been using it for your affair. We have proof. He handed Tom a report from the investigator he'd hired. Tom's face darkened as he read the evidence. Julia, you were cheating on me? I suspected, but I didn't want to believe it. Julia sat frozen in shock, her facade crumbling. Her lover had been deceiving her too. I told you leaving would make you regret it, I said. Julia glared at me but said nothing, her expression hollow. Yes, she admitted, I was unfaithful. But I'm leaving Tom now. I don't need him. For the first time, Tom stood up for himself. You're not going anywhere without paying alimony. You owe me for this. Julia scoffed but realized she had no leverage. Fine. I'll pay, but don't think I'm sticking around. I'm leaving for good. Sam added a final blow. By the way, Julia, your boyfriend is seeing someone else. You were just another fling. Julia's face turned pale as she read the report confirming the betrayal. Defeated, she left, borrowing money to cover her debts and taking on jobs to repay them. Even her parents refused to help, ashamed of her actions. Tom moved into a modest apartment, burdened by debt. He reached out for financial help a few times, but I refused. You chose to sever ties, Tom. It's time to take responsibility for your actions. Though it was painful to watch, I hope this would teach him to grow into a better person. Living with Sam's family brought me joy and peace. The laughter of my grandchildren and the warmth of a loving household made life fulfilling. As I embraced my new reality, the chaos caused by Tom and Julia faded into a distant memory. With my family around me, I finally felt at home.